Britain declared war on Germany on 3rd September 1939, leading to Tillicoultry in Clackmannanshire becoming a garrison town, with the arrival of soldiers from the Argyll and Sutherland Highlanders, as well as a Polish regiment. The first child evacuees arrived on 1st September that year, 2 days before war was officially declared, and the first rationing began soon afterwards. Wartime incidents in the Tillicoultry area, however, were few and far between. One of them happened in June 1940, when the primary school was destroyed by fire, but no one was injured. There was also a close call when a bomb was dropped near to the golf course, but neither of these incidents compared with the explosion at Devonside on 23rd September 1942, as children played with what turned out to be a dangerous find. Some boys were playing and hunting for chestnuts at the back of what is now Tillicoultry Primary School, near to the then derelict Tillicoultry House. At the time it was simply known as Fir Park. The site where the ski slope is today had once been a firing range used by the Polish soldiers stationed at the Middleton and Oak Mills at the burnside in the town, and although it was thought to have been cleared, the children managed to discover an anti-tank bomb and an incendiary device. Thinking nothing of it, these were placed in their pockets, and they cycled back to their homes in Devonside. 2 days later, on Wednesday 23rd September, the two boys were playing at the disused Devonside Brickworks, which was by then being used as a refuse coupe, where people disposed of their rubbish and unwanted articles. They were joined by a few other children. At some point, it was decided they would form a circle. The boys took out their devices and started playing with them, unaware of what these deadly items were. It is thought one fell onto the other, causing a massive explosion. It was 5 minutes to 6, and immediately locals knew something terrible had happened in the direction of the coupe. Lying on the ground, badly injured and deafened by the blast, the children barely uttered a word. Local resident Alexander Goldie was the first on the scene following the incident, finding in all 7 children, 2 girls and 5 boys, lying within a radius of a few yards of one another. As soon as he saw what had happened, he phoned Clackmannanshire County Police, who arrived promptly, along with 2 ambulances. Also on the scene within minutes was Dr. W. B. Ross of Tillicoultry. He tended to the children as best he could, along with Bert Stalker of Oakle View and ex-police sergeant George Donald, who had some knowledge of first aid. The sergeant had brought a supply of bandages with him, while neighbours made up bandages from sheets. They also brought blankets, rugs, and anything else they could wrap the injured children in while they waited to be taken to the county hospital in Alloa. Another on the scene quickly was George Dawn, half-brother of Robert Stenhouse. He'd heard the explosion just 50 yards from the family home at 10 Alexandra Street and rushed out. He found Robert badly injured, but managed to speak with him. He said Robert had asked, "Will I be in time for the pictures? Mind and tell my mother not to go away without me." He also asked George to shift his legs as his feet were cold. 3 hours later, Robert died in hospital. He was 10 years old. Another victim of the tragedy was Joyce Anderson. Joyce and her sister Susan were taking a shortcut from their home at 10 Thompson Place in nearby Colsnaughton, as they'd been sent out on an errand. They had descended a slope, ducked under a fence, and were crossing the refuse coupe when the explosion occurred. They received the full force of the blast. 8-year-old Joyce died shortly afterwards. 10-year-old Susan, although badly injured, survived. The other victims of the tragedy were John Hunter of Oakview, aged 9, and Francis Williams, aged 12, of 85 Alexandra Street, both of Devonside. One survivor was 12-year-old James Dawson, who lost both his legs, and another boy, Thomas Snadden, lost his hair. One boy had a lucky escape as he was late getting out to play due to chores he had to do. When the explosion occurred, he was far enough away not to be caught in the blast. George Donald later spoke of how he was struck by the calm demeanour of the parents and even the children. The fathers knelt beside their children, comforting them, he said. There were no sounds from the children unless they were moved, when they gave the merest whimper. He continued, some of them had both legs shattered, and the others one, but they lay there with not a word of complaint. He ended, I've seen a lot in my time, but nothing like the endurance of these children in their injured condition. The entire community was shocked and grief-stricken, and they had much sympathy for the parents of the children, who'd all died that evening. Funeral services for the victims were held on the afternoon of Saturday, 26 September, in the victims' homes, led by the parish minister, the Reverend John Turnbull. They were then interred at Tillicoultry Cemetery. The streets were lined with people, all paying their respects as the cortege made its way to the graveyard. The services of committal were conducted by the Reverend Turnbull, along with a local army chaplain, the Reverend W.P.G. Cooper. Joyce was interred first, followed by John, Frank, then Robert. A memorial service was held on the Sunday at Closnotton Parish Church, where a large congregation came to pay their respects to the children. The Reverend Cooper conducted the service, which was also attended by the Reverend Turnbull. It was said to be an impressive and very touching service. At the site of the blast, apart from the hole in the ground caused by it, 2 little shoes were left behind, a grim reminder of what had happened. At the cemetery, there is no memorial marker for Robert.